both Kwesi and myself have talked with him multiple times since. I was disappointed, but it was a mistake, and I think he's obviously owning that mistake and knows that that's something that can't happen again. Jordan has had a really good offseason, coming off of the temporary setback he had in the spring. We asked him to do a lot this summer to be prepared and at his best when we got going, and this was a mistake that happened. He's a rookie, and you'd love to say that no mistakes like that are ever going to happen, but the big thing for me talking to Jordan was, let's learn from it. Let's make sure we're moving forward the right way, and I think he's got a good perspective on owning it, taking responsibility, but also moving forward the right way.
Well, welcome into the Skol Purple podcast. We are alive, yes, believe it or not. We did not die over the offseason, even though, as Vikings fans, you never know. But we made it back. Tony, how are you, my brother?
I'm doing well, man. I am doing well. I am excited for the season that is almost upon us, Carson. I mean, we are T-minus about 2 weeks and get its preseason, but actually watching NFL football. So, I mean, let that sink in for a moment. About 2 weeks away, we will be playing the Seahawks in preseason football. So I'm excited.
And watching your favorite Vikings quarterback, Jaron Hall, throw a football.
That's right. That's right. At least we get to see, what we got in the youngster, and maybe a little Nick Mullins. You never know.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, it's good to be back, guys, because we've got that football itch, or at least I do. I don't know about Tony, but after watching that Netflix series Quarterback with Kirk Cousins, obviously Patty Mahomes and Marcus Mariota, I am absolutely 100% ready for Vikings football. I'm very much ready to get going here. So, no, we did not forget about our channel. We just had some other things going on. A lot of things that you were probably part of there, bud. Good old Padre chiming in here. Trying to take a little time off during the summer. Not a lot of talking points, but lo and behold, Tony, the talking points are building up over the last week or two. But let's start with this one. And I believe Jordan Addison phrased it this way. Kevin O'Connell phrased it this way. It was a mistake that Jordan Addison made, and he ended up going 140 miles per hour, and at around 3 a.m., he says, Tony, that he had a dog emergency, which that's understandable, right? It's understandable. You have a dog emergency, but at 3 a.m., it's kind of like, I don't know. But 140 miles an hour he was going. He got a ticket for that or a fine for that or whatever. But he made a mistake. He owned up to it, which I think is important. He owned up to it. Vikings talked to him, and they even got calls, I think, from some of his family or friends saying, hey, this is not the guy that you just saw do this. This is not the type of guy Jordan Addison is. And I am willing to give him a break on this one. I think sometimes you're out late and you sometimes maybe don't realize how fast you're going, but hopefully this doesn't become a pattern because then we're going to have some problems. But I don't think it's anything too big, and I think he's going to learn from it, and we're going to be doing all right. What are your thoughts on Jordan Addison's little mishap?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's not a great look for Jordan, and I get that he's got the dog emergency, pet emergency excuse that he's using it, and I only say excuse because That's what he said. He said that's why he was committing
Dog
this
ate his homework.
infraction. Yeah, I mean, so it is what it is. I think for me, as someone that lives around the Twin Cities, if you don't know this, the where he got pulled over was like close to downtown St. Paul. And I know I tweeted this out after the news came out, and certainly when I can't remember which news outlet it was, it might have been WCCO, mentioned where he got pulled over. But where he got pulled over, this is like towards downtown St. Paul. This isn't some rural highway out in the middle of nowhere. And the reason why I bring this up is to say, if it really was an emergency and he's freaking out and he's thinking his dog is going to die or is in some sort of, emergency, certainly I understand to a degree. I still don't think you should go 140 miles an hour. But if it legit was not maybe the dog thing and maybe we just like to go fast, that is not a place to go fast. You are going to get caught. There are cops there all of the time. So for me, it was a little bit of a head scratcher, just like, I like to go fast too. And I'm only saying this for entertainment purposes, law enforcement. But when I want to go fast, I tend to go places that are rural and outside of where they may be. And certainly not in the thick of the bee's nest. So it just seemed to me that it was a pretty large lapse in judgment as to not only going the speed, but where we're choosing to open her up. But like I said, it is what it is. It sounds like there wasn't any alcohol involved. Not that that's like the be all and end all, but it does matter. It basically could have gone to a felony, had alcohol or some other substances, had been involved, which they weren't. So at this point, we'll treat it like a traffic incident. Nobody else got hurt. It is what it is. As you mentioned, hopefully it's a learning moment and we just move forward.
Yeah, at least there was no outside factors like alcohol or drugs that were reported involved with it. And like you said, it's a learning curve, learning moment for him, and maybe it's just an endorsement for you that you need to try and get Jordan Addison to hang out with you, so that way he can understand what time of day the cops are out and, in the area,
Yeah, if he wants to go 140 miles an hour, again, law enforcement, I say this for entertainment purposes only, I would just have better ideas than where he was going 140 miles an hour.
See, now everybody, just so we are aware, Tony never goes over the speed limit. He is a very faithful, law-abiding citizen. There's never any question about it for Tony. So just so we're aware of that.
Yeah, actually, and I actually mean this. I'm not saying this part for entertainment purposes. To date, knock on wood, your bestie Steggy here has yet to ever get a speeding ticket. I am still batting 1,000 on speeding tickets.
Wow, I thought I was doing good at age 27 now, but I've gotten some parking tickets. I got a tail light warning when I was driving a work vehicle. That was fantastic. And then also I got a warning for speeding, even though it was only like 5 miles an hour over the speed limit in a 55. So I was going like 60 in a 55. But yes, I know it's technically breaking the law, but
yeah. Well, look, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm just saying nobody's caught me yet. There's a big difference.
That's the key. That's the key. It's not illegal unless you're caught, right?
Yeah. So I'm just saying, Addison, come on, man. So let's get it together. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I think he'll be fine, and it's going to be fun to watch him and JJ and TJ, KJ, and all the weapons that the Vikings have assembled on offense. And I'm also interested to see how the running game does. We are going to talk more about some of these key cogs, maybe go a little bit position by, well, we won't go position by position today, but we'll probably do that more so when we get closer to some decisions being made in regards to people being cut or whatever. But the Vikings did make some depth signings, Tony, and we will talk about those a little bit here as well. But one thing I want to talk about that was a talking point today at the press conferences leading into training camp is Danielle Hunter. Apparently, he actually reported today, but what does that mean exactly? We don't really know. So I'm kind of interested to get your thoughts on that as he reports to training camp. Do you think that this contract is going to play a role in him not, performing at training camp or not participating in the activities?
I mean, it's no surprise to me. I guess I'm a little surprised that he did report. Granted, I mean, I can't remember the figure. I wish I could remember. Carson, you may have it, but I think it's 50,000 a day. That when if he did not report, which was non, I want to say refundable is probably the wrong way to put it, but basically there was no way he was going to get it back. He would be penalized. I believe it was 50,000 a day. So, you know, look, not that that's a large amount of money for someone to, that's making quite a bit of money. But that's still not an insignificant amount of money. I really don't care who you are. So, in part, I'm a little surprised that he reported, but I guess on the flip side of it, maybe, maybe not all that surprised. I mean, if he doesn't want to, he probably, here's the other aspect of it. I guess now that I'm chewing on this a little bit, Carson, he probably also doesn't want to seem like he has character issues if the Vikings are potentially trying to move him, because that does matter. And so if he's willing to report, even if it's in limited duty, it looks good for him from a character standpoint and a locker room guy to any potential suitors. So we'll see. Selfishly, and I'd love to hear your take on this and what you'd like to see happen, but selfishly, I would like to see them extend him or, work out some sort of deal where he's happy. Maybe it's a 2-year deal that's front loaded this year and as much as we can. And then he basically could hit the market next year with maybe like an opt out or something like that. I would like to see Danielle on this team. I don't see a lot of answers behind him, so again, that's why I'd like to see him play. At this stage of the season, any capital we get's probably going to be 2024 capital. And I'm just focused on this year. So I don't know. What would you in an ideal world want to see happen with that situation?
Well, I'd like some sort of resolution beyond this year. So to me, if you're just going to keep him on the team for this year and he's going to be gone, I would get some value out of him. I am that kind of person and I know this is more of like a Madden philosophy, I guess, but if I've got a guy that's going to have an expiring contract and I know I'm not going to re-sign him, no matter how good he is, I would try and get value out of that guy because I think that can be helpful for the team in the future. Even if you can get a small draft pick in return, it might be better than nothing. However, there is a value too in the person playing and helping you win games in 2023. So I get that aspect of it too. But if you can get, and I know we've talked about a first round pick. I don't know if we could get a first rounder for Hunter unless somebody says, or unless somebody else comes to an agreement with him on a contract. Say, the Jaguars, who apparently he follows their Instagram account, whoop-de-doo. And so if he goes to the Jaguars and they're giving us a first round pick, they say, yeah, we'll give you a first round pick. And the Vikings are like, all right, great. What's the catch? Well, we need him to sign an extension, at least 2-year extension for us to do this. And I wouldn't blame him. I would agree. They need some sort of extension for Danielle Hunter, but Kwesi, in regards to Danielle Hunter, was pretty passive. I mean, he did say he was going to be happy to see him. That doesn't mean much. Yay, happy to see him. It could mean a lot of things, some underlying things, because Kwesi's very smart. Like, let's not let that get by us here. Kwesi's a very smart guy, and he knew not to go into too deeply on what this situation means for Danielle Hunter that he's at TCO, So, like, he knew in that press conference, like, I'm not going to say, oh, we're going to sign him to extension, or I'm not going to say he's going to participate. We don't know any of that stuff. We need to have conversations, all this. So it is good that he's there, but take it with a grain of salt. It doesn't mean they're any closer to coming to agreement on terms, which is unfortunate because I would like to see some resolution come to pass. Honestly, for this season, it would be great to have him. Like you mentioned, there's not much depth behind him. But if you're able to get some value, I'd be willing to trade him, because here's the thing, Tony. Maybe the Vikings think about this season differently, but I think you and I are kind of on that same page where, yes, we'd like to have players that can help us compete, but here's the thing. We know we're not going to go win the NFC Championship game. We're not going to probably even get to the NFC Championship game with this defense. No matter how good Brian Flores is, this defense is going to have to take a couple of years to get its footing underneath it and to see what they can do once they have more experience. And also, not to mention the new system that Flores is bringing. It's another new system. So even some of the veteran players like a Harrison Smith, he's very smart, but there might be some things that he's asked to do differently. Now, I don't think he's going to be asked to do the same thing he did in the Donatel system, which is a good thing. And I think Flores is too smart to put him in that kind of same role. Smith really flourishes, it seems like, when he's near the line of scrimmage and can kind of confound the quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do there. But I'm not too optimistic yet on anything getting done, whatever it may be, a trade or a extension. But yeah, that's where I would rest on that. Anything you want to add there?
Well, here's the other element to it. If he's unhappy and we're very, very far apart in negotiations, right? It only takes one marquee edge rusher to go down in training camp with an injury. And we've already seen some injuries now start to pile up across the league for stupid reasons or otherwise. And, all of a sudden they're going to come knocking because the league knows that there's a situation there. The league at large knows that he's not happy with his current contract. There was a large possibility that he did not report, which he did, obviously. But there's still, there's a little bit of I don't want to say rift, but there's a chance that he would be available at a price. And so, if a guy goes down, like I said, some big name edge rusher, don't be surprised if a deal's not done yet, they come knocking. And that could change things immensely quickly too.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, injuries, those, who knows what kind of injuries could happen here in the next 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
So
well, that's kind of the scary thing with training camp. I was going to say that earlier when we first started. Is as excited as I am about training camp to start,
Tony.
That's right. Yeah,
edge rusher.
Put my fingers in the dirt, and we're gonna make it happen. Yeah, I'm coming in. I'm coming for your job, Danielle. Yeah.
That's right. Tony's telling Tony to get in the dirt. There you go.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's one of those things where training camp is exciting, but it is that time of year where, I don't know, ever since Teddy's knee exploded, it's like training camp brings a little bit of anxiety about just weird injuries that can happen. I remember
When have the
Diggs,
Vikings ever had weird injuries?
well, the year that Diggs, I think his last year that Diggs had with Minnesota, he had a hamstring, and it was okay. It didn't keep him from playing week 1, but if you remember, it kind of just nagged him all season long, and so that's what I'm really hoping for with training camp more than anything. I mean, obviously, I want to see how the team does and how they're looking, and especially with the defense, what's that looking like. But the biggest thing is getting out of training camp healthy. Can we do it? Can we get out of camp relatively unscathed? And if we can do that, we have our first step towards the Lombardi.
That's right. That's right. Well, we do have some transactions here, Tony. Now, this is not listed on the Vikings website for transactions, but I sent you the link yesterday evening that ML Football on Twitter, or X as it is now becoming, he tweeted that Super Bowl champion versatile offensive tackle Bobby Evans is signing with the Minnesota Vikings. League sources familiar with the situation tell him a great depth move by Minnesota, him adding his little 2 cents on the issue. But I don't mind it as a depth piece because the most that he's going to do, hopefully, is be a backup, and that's the most. The Vikings also signed Colin Thompson, a tight end, and guard Jack Snyder. They placed Andre Carter on the active, physically unable to perform list, the PUP list. They also placed Chris Reed on the active non-football injury list and waived non-injury football injury for wide receiver Malik Knowles. So I'm not sure. Does that mean he's gone? I don't know. That's one thing I am not sure. The waived / non-football injury thing. But
Yeah, I think it's because they're not releasing him necessarily. They are waiving him. So he'll hit the waiver wire. If he clears the waiver wire, essentially, then we can kind of do whatever we feel like doing. Then we release him or, whatever we kind of feel like doing in that spot. But the good news is with all those, Carson, no big names. No big names that we're worried about ending up on the PUP. As far as the signings are concerned, again, it's depth. That sounds like the tight end that we signed, probably the biggest piece that he may add, the biggest piece of his game, I should say, that's more of an addition, is the fact that he's a very seasoned long snapper. So if that's something that we may be looking to upgrade, he could potentially slide into that spot. Even if it's depth, that he could maybe end up on the practice squad in case an injury happens, or maybe they look to get cheaper at that position. Since if you remember, we signed our long snapper last year to a pretty big deal. And
best long snapper in the league, baby.
That's right. And then, as far as the Bobby Evans, pickup, that it is purely depth. The biggest benefit we get with him is that he is versatile, so he can play tackle and guard. So for whatever reason, and again, knock on wood, we have a rash of injuries like we did towards the tail end of last season. He's a guy that can fill in at both guard and tackle if absolutely necessary. And it's important to have guys that can do that can fill those roles and wear multiple hats. So I don't hate it. It's not sexy. I get that it's like Super Bowl winning, but that's like, the guy that was, played special teams, which this guy pretty much, that was his primary role with the Rams. He was on the 53 when they won the Super Bowl. So there's that, but I don't know if he was really any sort of contributor to that Super Bowl.
He was there. That's all that matters. So maybe he played. I don't know. It looks like.
Well, I did see this. He ended up on the. It did say that he ended up on the Vikings practice squad towards the tail end of last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I suppose they were pretty desperate at that time.
Yeah. So he was apparently not playing football, or or maybe he was on another practice squad. But he ended up on the Vikings practice squad at the tail end of last season. So this is a familiar face. He did spend some time with O'Connell in LA when he was in LA with McVay. So yeah, again, good depth signing. Obviously, there's some familiarity there, and that's good.
Yeah. Any of the other signings mean anything to you? Colin Thompson, Jack Snyder. So this Jack Snyder guy, by the way, he was in the USFL, I believe, or maybe the XFL, one of the two. So he was part of a team there. He's relatively young. I want to say like maybe 25.
Okay, sure. Yeah, and we picked up another guy from the XFL,
Is
receiver.
that the Thompson?
No. He's got a really cool name, and I wish I could remember
Jackson?
it. Lucky Jackson. There you go.
Yeah, that was back on May 23rd. We got old Lucky Jackson.
Yeah. So, another guy that we'll probably be able to see some in preseason. I mean, he was a guy that was on the championship team for the XFL last year, Mr. Lucky Jackson. So, yeah, I mean, I love the preseason because I'm such a football nerd. I like watching to see these depth guys, and I can remember watching when Thielen, tried out for the team, and his first year, a lot of people, you probably remember, Carson, but a lot of people don't remember the fact that Thielen didn't automatically make the 53. I mean, he was actually on the practice squad for his first year with the team.
Right.
So I remember watching him in preseason, and I didn't necessarily think that there was something there, but you could tell he played with a lot of heart, a lot of passion. He ran hard, and it was a cool story, even if he didn't make the team and certainly the career that he's had ever since. So I love the preseason just to watch some of these young guys and go, I wonder if this guy or that guy has something. And even if it's not this year, maybe they're guys that might show up in a year or two. So.
Yeah. And so Jack Snyder, by the way, former XFL guy, he's age 26. He spent last year, it looks like, with the LA Rams, similar to Bobby Evans, even though Bobby was, I don't think, with the Rams last year, or if he was, he was let go pretty early, I think. So another depth signing, probably a practice squad candidate, if nothing else. That's probably what you're looking at with old Jack Snyder, and probably the same thing with Colin Thompson, this tight end. I don't know much about him, but we have this thing called Google. Apparently that has not had its name changed yet. So
no, I think it's still Google for now.
So Colin Thompson, he's 29 years old at this point. So maybe just a depth piece, giving the Vikings a few more targets out there for the training camp time period. He was with the Giants, the Bears, the Birmingham Iron, Tampa Bay Vipers, Panthers for a few seasons, and now with the Vikings. He's got one reception in his career, Tony, for 7 yards and a touchdown. So there you go.
Hey, if it's got to be one reception, at least it was a touchdown.
At least it was a tutty. That's right.
Yeah.
That's
right.
I
like it.
So there is Colin Thompson. And now, Tony, they also did waive John Reed, which I don't even really remember them picking him up, but they waived him. So probably a future Hall of Fame corner, but there you go.
Of course, that's how it always turns out.
Speaking of Hall of Famers, Kirk Cousins, the Netflix star.
Yeah.
Come on, you get a laugh. You get a laugh.
I mean,
when I say that?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's got a little charisma. I'll pose this question, Carson. Have you watched the whole thing? I guess
I did. I finally got through it.
Okay, so I've also watched all 8 episodes of the series or docu-series. So then my second question for you is, do you like Kirk Cousins more, less, or just the same after watching the series?
I'd say I like him more. I for sure respect him a lot more than what I did, just by seeing the beating and brutality of the injuries he undertook last year, but played every snap pretty much. So I
Sure.
definitely gained some respect for him in that regard. Of the three, I probably like him the most out of the three. I maybe will get some back flack on this, or backlash on this. Get my words right, jeez. Backlash on this, but I kind of found Mahomes, and especially his wife, quite annoying. And yeah, that's what I'll just say. I'm curious to hear your feedback.
I mean, it not a dissimilar assessment. I mean, as far as Kirk is concerned, I would agree that I had a newfound respect for his toughness. I thought, he certainly exuded an amount of toughness there that, without seeing behind the curtain a bit, we kind of miss as fans, just looking week in, week out on Sundays. And so that I thought was cool. I mean, in a sense, if that's even the right word. So I think I gained some respect for him that way. I would say that my vision of him as a quarterback, in a lot of ways, was more confirming some of the biases that I already had. I think he's very good, and I've said this on the show plenty of times. I think he's a very good quarterback. I think the biggest issue with Kirk is he's got this monkey on his back that there's that little voice inside of his head called doubt. And that's what probably keeps him from the next level. And boy, he's not far off of that top level. I mean, and I again said this a million times. He's a very good quarterback, but it just, especially as the season went on, there was a moment when they showed him on the sidelines of that Indianapolis game where we're about to kick the game-winning field goal. And I think it was like a 42-yard field goal. Not a short field goal, but it's not like we're talking 55 yards here. And you may have seen I think he was talking to O'Connell or somebody, and he said, it's too far. It's too far. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, no, Kirk, it's not too far. We're going to win the game. Like, and I get, human emotions come into play, but you watch the flip side with a Patrick Mahomes, there is no doubt in that kid's mind he's going to win every play, every game. And that's the difference. And yes, I did find Mahomes to be a little annoying at times, but that's also because I'm an old curmudgeon now. So he's just a young guy, and he's whatever. But I didn't find him insufferable. He seems like a nice kid, and obviously
I think his wife makes him worse. But
well, he's on top of the world, man. I mean, he's playing elite of elite football, and it's cool to see a guy work as hard as he does. He puts in a ton of work.
Oh yeah.
But also have the
trainer
success.
And everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. I found Mariota to be very boring, and he seems like he'd be a likable guy. He just wasn't entertaining. And if we're just looking at it from the entertainment perspective, like I kind of checked out after about the third episode when they would show him. I'm like, all right, now I can look at my phone and see if there's any Vikings news I need to catch up on. So, but I liked it. Overall, it was very good.
Yeah, I think Marcus seemed like a really nice guy. Seems like a nice guy, and I think he's very, very reserved. And I think Kirk is that way to an extent, not nearly as reserved as Mariota. But I think that can also be a detriment, especially at the quarterback position, because a lot of times quarterbacks are supposed to be out there fiery and the leaders, like Mahomes, like you said, that you got to give him credit. Mahomes does that really well. He takes charge in the huddle, does the pregame hype speeches. Yes, Kirk does those too. But I just think there's something, I mean, it's not just that Mahomes talks the talk. He walks the walk every single week.
Yeah.
Like, there is rarely a downtime for Patrick Mahomes or a down game for Patrick Mahomes. And yes, he has them every now and then, but it seems like he just continues to be great. Like, there's even with the injury, like that made me respect Mahomes a lot more. The injury that he was going through too, the high ankle sprain, which I knew, like, and maybe you knew during the playoffs too, but this kind of almost added another layer to that. Like, oh boy, this is really serious. So yeah, I think that really added another layer of respect for me on Mahomes. And again, like you said, I do agree. It's Kirk kind of had that mentality of like, oh well, we didn't get him close enough for the kick or whatever. I do remember that. He's not close enough or whatever, but yeah, I will say, like I said, Kirk, I got some more respect for him. That grind is crazy for NFL players. And man, I understand to a degree why they make the money that they do.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
To a
Yeah, I
degree.
mean it's a hard position, and I think the part that doesn't go overstate, or I should say the part that doesn't get emphasized enough, is the fact that, it's for lack of a better way to put it, it's your ass no matter what. You
Right.
win, it's on you, and you're the you're the focal point of that win, and if you lose, you're equally the focal point of the loss. And whether that's fair or unfair, it's a burden that every quarterback carries with them. So, it's why you've got guys like, Patrick Mahomes that probably in a lot of ways do carry their team and they earn it every single week. And then, you've got a guy like Daniel Jones and, that whole situation with Saquon Barkley where he's going, yeah, you're making $40 million because of me. Like, so it is what it is. It comes with a position, and, you live and die by that sword, I suppose.
Well, the Vikings already know the mistake that the Giants are making or are attempting to make, maybe I should say, of paying the quarterback $40 million, even though Kirk's not making that much, and paying the running back double-digit $1 million. The Vikings already have been down that road. It does not work. The running back position cannot be a position you pay big money to, especially when you're paying big money to your quarterback, because you pay big money to your quarterback, Tony, to be able to overcome deficiencies, not only in the pass game, but in the run game, not only for your receivers, but your running backs. And I think it's counterproductive to pay both your quarterback and running back big money, in my opinion. Both top 10, top 5 type of money. I just don't like it. And Dallas even suffered with it to a degree with Ezekiel Elliott. Imagine what they could have done this past season if they had gotten another 10, $15 million player added to their roster. Maybe they would have beat San Francisco, and we could have been talking about an entirely different Super Bowl. So, obviously, again, one player doesn't break the team, one player doesn't make the team, or one player doesn't make the team, but as they do say, one player can break a team. But yeah, I guess I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on that, on just the running back position, which I have never talked about on this show before.
No, never. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's the right move for the Vikings to be done. And just, of course, speaking about this team, this squad, and the situation that we're in, moving on from Dalvin was the right move. And it doesn't mean that Dalvin is not a talented player. He certainly is. And I'd be the first person to tell you, I think Dalvin Cook is a good to certainly above average running back in this league. The problem was always the money. And the issue is it's a supply and demand issue. I mean, it kind of is as simple as that. If you can find 2 backs that cost you a tenth of what one primary back is going to cost you, but they get similar production, it kind of doesn't make sense to pay one guy that much money because you can find the same value in another back that's young or a stable of backs that are cheaper. So it doesn't mean that these guys don't have value. It just means that their value is diminished by the market that they are in. And it's just the way that the NFL is right now. Now, do I think that the pendulum could swing the other way at some point? Of course, 1,000%. Just like I think that the quarterback market, as insane as it is now, I'm not saying it's ever going to go way the other way. Like, I don't think we're going to find that the scale is going to start tipping backwards, but it will slow because it's only going to take a couple of big time contracts that bust, like we saw with Daniel Jones, for instance, because I'm waiting for that one. I think that's going to be the bombshell that actually starts to hurt the quarterback market, just like the Ezekiel Elliott running back contract hurt the running back position. It was this massive contract. All of a sudden, there was no tread left on the tire, and it hurt the Cowboys organization. I mean, just from a financial standpoint, and their ability to reallocate that money in other places. So, I do think things will settle. Right now, they're in the doldrums of that running back position being devalued, and part of that reason is some of these massive contracts, Adrian's, Ezekiel's included, in recent memory.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the receiver position is like in that mode now where people are going to continue to overvalue it maybe. And we'll see how long that lasts. But it's definitely one of those things right now, I would say.
I thought the Christian Kirk contract would be one that was going to maybe tip it back a little bit, and now he played well. So I mean, good for Christian Kirk. But yeah, it'll happen. It'll happen for receivers too.
There you go. All right, here it is. The new look unis from the Vikings on social media. They are throwback uniforms for the Vikings, by the way. If you don't recognize them, these are uniforms the Vikings wore prior to the 2006 season, I want to say. Tony, you can back me up or tell me I'm wrong on that if you disagree, but I think that's what it was.
No, you're right.
I like it, Tony. What are your thoughts on the look that the Vikings will be rolling out on the opening weekend? This will be the uniform they're going to throw out against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I was not alive in the 70s era Vikings, granted not too far off. However, I do like the look of the throwback jerseys. They do remind me a bit of the throwback jerseys from my era of watching the Vikings, which isn't too much of a detachment from, your 80s and 90s Vikings. So I like them. I know it sounds like some people don't. I'm a fan. I don't think I'm going to run out and go pick one up because I feel like for me, if I'm going to buy a throwback jersey, it's probably going to be with a throwback player on it versus a modern player on the roster. But I do like them, and I think it'll look cool out in the field.
Yeah, I love these actually more than the current uniforms. And I know there's been at least one person I saw say that as well. I'm not a huge fan. They're kind of like, I don't hate our uniforms, but I'm not the biggest of fan of the new kind of, or I should say not the new, but the jerseys that we've been going out with. I like the all whites.
Sure.
But
Is
like
it
the
lettering?
purples, the home purples. Yeah, I don't know if it's the lettering or I don't know. It just seems dull to me. And I feel like these pop more. And maybe it's just because the purple color is a little different on these, but I don't know. They just pop more to me compared to the current Viking uniforms, or at least the current home uniforms. Not the not talking about the the current night themed jerseys. The what do you call them? The what are they called, Tony? Come on, help me out here.
Are you talking about the color rush?
The color rush. Yeah, color
Yeah.
rush. Like I like the color rush sort of. And I like the away whites, all whites, but
Yep.
that's kind of about it. I mean, it's not like I hate it. Like I think there are worse uniforms in the league, but I love these. I really do love these, and I think I might have to go get one, Tony. I'm not gonna lie. I think I might have to go get one.
Yeah, well, I certainly wouldn't hate it if I had one. I just I think if it were me, I'd probably go with a, like a legendary player on there versus a modern player. Oh, and again, that's just a personal preference, but I do like them. I do like them. I think some of the funnier comments I saw on Twitter or X or Skibbity Blue Blah or whatever it's supposed to be called now,
Whatever it is.
is there was all these comments about so they're the same. And I thought to myself, like, clearly you're not a Vikings fan because those jerseys look nothing like we've been rolling with for about the last, like, at least 5 seasons. Like, there's been nothing even close to that. So I don't know what people are watching, but,
Yeah, I saw that too, and I was also quite confused there with you.
Yeah.
No, they're not. But
I can't really fight with that. Yeah, I was like,
yeah,
all right.
It's like I think if they're thinking they're the same uniforms, you probably are already have lost that battle. So might as well just move on at that point, right?
Yep. Yeah, I can't fight that much. You don't know what you're talking about. Like that's what that way. I actually did put thought into, like, do I want to go screenshot what the current uniforms look like? And then I'm like, why am I doing work nope, it's not worth it. Just let it go. Let it go. If the internet has taught me anything, let it go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. Tony, is there anything else that I have overlooked in the topics for the show? I think we've talked about there's not really any news regarding TJ Hawkinson or Justin Jefferson's extension. So I don't really think there's much to talk about there that we haven't talked about already. Is there anything else on your mind before we wrap up this show? I will make a note that I think I'm not going to promise anything, but I think we are on track for at least one episode a week from here on throughout football season. So buckle up, folks. Buckle up. That's why we've been on this little siesta or whatever you want to call it. And I've been just kind of enjoying our summers, and we've had busy summers. And yeah. So anyways, Tony, anything else that you can think of off the top of your head?
The football season needs to save me from my own golf game. I mean, really, at this point, I've been playing some pretty terrible golf this season, so it's a welcomed change of pace to get back into the swing of things with football season. But yeah, I'm very excited. There's nothing else I can think of that we haven't already covered. But the best part, Carson, I'm going to remind everybody, besides the fact that you should definitely like and subscribe to the channel, please do so. But besides that, we again are about 2 weeks away from our first preseason game. So I'm excited. I know all of you are excited. Carson, I know you're excited. So I'm just ready for football.
I'm ready, man.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Who we got here? We got Tony K still in here. Almost let me beat him pretty rough. You almost got beat by Tony, huh, Tony?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we had a little Tony golf off earlier this year, and it was close. It was certainly close. He almost got me, but yeah, it's been a fun season, and there's still more golf to be had. I'm not giving it up, but I'm ready for fall. I'm a big guy. I'm coming out of my hibernation, which is the summer months.
Yep.
for us big fellas. And,
That's right.
I've been collecting all my nuts and sleeping so that way I can emerge when the cooler weather arrives.
That's right. That's right. Those games should never be close, he says. That's how bad he is, I'm guessing, is what he's trying to say. So
Yeah. No, Tony's doing well. And I'm not just talking about myself in the third person.
There you go. There you go. Well, yeah, we're planning on being with you again. Plans can change. We were hoping to maybe do more this past off season, but things just happened, and that's the way it goes. And honestly, there wasn't a ton to talk about. So, and that's okay. That is okay. And who knows? Maybe we will kind of do that from now on. Maybe disappear a little bit in the summer months, but
sometimes no
who
news
knows?
is good news.
Right.
To be honest with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, definitely looking forward to football season. Looking forward to putting out some previews, hopefully in the coming weeks, of some other teams in the NFC North, as well as, of course, the season, the Viking season, and things like that. Are there any before we go? Let's close with this, I guess, Tony. Are there any particular battles that you're looking forward to here in training camp? Since we did call this a training camp preview.
Yeah, I mean, nothing. I can't think of any particular position that I'm going, oh man, I can't wait to see this, that. I mean, I think the one that's low hanging fruit is probably KJ Osborne and Jordan Addison, just to see how those two are going to shake up with the depth chart. I do think KJ will probably, at minimum, begin the season as the number 2. And then it'll be interesting to see how Addison pushes KJ. Hopefully he does, because that means he's doing well. I think that what I'm really looking for, though, outside of the low-hanging fruit, is just the defense. How does that look schematically? How are the guys coming back from injury looking? Guys like a Caleb Evans, Andrew Booth Jr., Lewis Seen, guys that were with us last year, but because of injuries, we just didn't see much. So really looking to those guys. And that's really what I'm going to be looking for in training camp and preseason.
Well, I did not think you were going to go there. I thought you were going to say the low-hanging fruit is the cornerback position. I'm very intrigued to see, not that it's going to be a good competition, but I'm intrigued to see what the competition is like at the cornerback position between the likes of Andrew Booth Jr., Caleb Evans, and others as well. Mekhi Blackman in there, rookie, and some other names as well. But that's the big position I'm looking forward to watching, to see who emerges as CB1, CB2. And I think it's going to be a very interesting battle. Whether it's a good battle or not, that's something that we'll have to wait and see. Not holding my breath, but I'm interested to see if Brian Flores can work around or with that issue on this defense. So I think that's going to be very interesting to watch in training camp and going into the 2023 Minnesota Vikings season. So there you have it. The announcement of our demise was greatly exaggerated. We are not dead. We are here. We are back, so to speak. So glad to be back and glad to be getting closer. Still a ways away, but we're getting closer to Vikings regular season football, which is what we're all looking forward to. Yes, yeah. I am looking forward to preseason more than years past, though, Tony, right? With Jaron Hall, get to see what he does. But
yeah, I mean, of course.
But other than that, it's kind of like, I still want to see week 1, 2023, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's go.
Yeah. No, I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right. That is going to do it for this episode. We will have the audio posted of this tomorrow. So looking forward to letting our audio listeners know what's been going on as well. So Hopefully you have yourselves a great rest of your Tuesday evening, and we will plan on seeing you next week, hopefully with an extension for TJ Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson, somebody maybe, hopefully some news, hopefully some good news for the Vikings. We don't need any more bad news. We've had plenty of it. We don't need it ever again, Tony, right?
That's right.
All right, there you have it. Skol Purple Podcast is back. And as always, Skol.
Skol, baby.